Now, I'm betting you're like me. You'd love to get some hands-on practice with the UCS system, but you don't really want to shell out millions of dollars for a practice rack. Well, in this nugget, I'm going to show you how to install the UCS emulator from Cisco Systems. It and the software you're going to be required to run it is all available for the wonderful cost of nothing. That's right, it's free of charge. So let's walk through this important nugget that is going to give you a wonderful hands-on opportunity that you can use to follow along in most of the rest of this class. So our first step is to find it. If you do a Google search on UCS platform emulator, you should see first links or a couple of videos, it looks like, things talking about it. The third link is for the Unified Computing UCS Manager Developer Center. This sounds really promising. Sure enough, from this official Cisco site, you can see that we have a UCS Management Ecosystem link up top. And sure enough, there is the UCS Platform Emulator. So this is our home page. You want to bookmark this for the emulator. Notice the first thing that we have here, or one of the things we're going to head to right away, is the release notes. Okay, the Cisco UCS release notes version 2 for this latest version 2.1 of the emulator. I'm going to click on those release notes and they'll open. It's a PDF. And one of the things we need to check right away is system requirements. So the box where you want to run this emulator needs 2 gig free of RAM, 8 gig free of disk space, a 1.8 gig CPU, Firefox or Google Chrome, and the Java runtime environment 1.6 or later. Just go right down the checklist, make sure you meet those system requirements. Then we need to run it, and it's a virtual machine, so we need one of the following. One of the following supported virtual machine hypervisors. We've got the VMware Player here, we've got Workstation 7 here, VMware Fusion, the list goes on. Let's go up and grab VMware Player as our solution for launching this emulator, since VMware Player is available for the wonderful charge of nothing. So here we are over at VMware, and I notice there's a downloads link on their main page, and sure enough, over in the third column here is free product downloads. I love free. Let's go ahead and click on Player. Now, if you remember, the prerequisite said we need the Player 4.0 or higher. So one of the things we're going to be interested in seeing is where we are at with this particular latest version. So it looks like we are at VMware Player 6.0.0. That is absolutely awesome. In fact, it's something called the VMware Player and VMware Player Plus. Wow, we love pluses. So we're going to go ahead and save this. As it's downloading, I will go ahead and just pause the video, and we'll be right back to step through the install. So you got to love the magic of video. Here we are, and we have initiated the VMware Player setup. I'm going to say next. I'm going to carefully read this document. Yeah, I'll even print it, and then we'll say next. Obviously, we're accepting the license agreement and saying next. Program files, x86, VMware Player. Yeah, I'm fine with that destination. Check for product updates on startup. Yeah, knock yourself out. Help improve VMware Player. Anonymous statistics sent to VMware. Hey, you know what? If it'll help keep this program free and just in the goodwill of it, I'll say, yeah, that's fine. Shortcuts on the desktop and start menus programs folder, that's great. And continue. And it looks like this installation is flying. Even with all of the recording equipment that I've got running, that's a great sign. So here we are. I'll stay live here as we go through the VMware Player setup. And if this succeeds, I think we're ready to move on with the installation of the UCS emulator, because remember, what we're doing here is just prepping our system to be able to engage in that UCS emulator. So it looks like, yeah, it looks like we're still progressing nicely. Excellent. And that's it. Setup wizard complete. Excellent. We'll say finish. And we are ready to tackle the next step of our UCS emulation installation. So I've brought us back over to that UCS platform emulator download page. Notice there is a user guide. So this is a PDF that's going to be very valuable to us and literally will walk you through installing the UCS platform emulator. Now, I'm not going to bore you with all the details here. I'm just going to demonstrate it for you because, after all, that's what you're paying me for. But understand, I really wanted to point out that this document exists, and this document is obviously something that you're going to want to obtain. So here we are back at the download page, and we're ready to grab the OVA file and the .zip file that make up our UCS platform emulator. We're going to select each of these and we're going to initiate their download. Now, don't panic when you get to this login screen. This is just your Cisco.com complimentary login credentials that you're going to enter here. So if you don't have a Cisco.com login, just go ahead and establish one totally free of charge. When you log in, then you'll be able to, once logged in, download the zip and the OVA file that we are interested in. So we restart this process. I click on it. We are, for each of those files, going to agree to some disclaimer information, and we're going to initiate our downloads. Notice I've already downloaded it to save time, so it wants to open it right in the VMware player. So remember now, you're going to go in and you're going to spend the time downloading the OVA, and the .zip file. These will take a while regardless of your connection, and that's obviously because we've got a server up there at Cisco.com that's not pushing a lot of bits per second. So just be patient, download both of those files. So here are our downloads in a folder I set up in my documents called UCS Emulator 2.1. I'm going to right click and choose, extract all actually will be just fine, the built-in Windows extractor. And I'm going to say, go ahead and put this right in the root of this UCS Emulator 2.1 folder that I created. So it's going to go ahead and extract the files out of the zip. La 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 la, there we go. And notice this creates a UCS platform emulator folder. I'll go ahead and get rid of this zip file. We don't need it anymore. I'll take my OVA and I'll move it up into this UCSPE folder that we have. I can now double click my OVA file and it will import this virtual machine into the VMware player. Perfect. When it does so, it launches it. This is information about some upgraded software. I'll just say, hey, VMware, remind me later. And we will progress with the installation of the UCS platform emulator. Now, I want to warn you here. This process will appear to hang. At least it does on my machine. By the way, here's some VMware message about compatible versions of VMware. We don't care about that. And now we're off and running. I'm going to click in the window, press any key, and here we go. We are indeed installing our UCS emulator. As I warned you, you'll see it here in a moment, right here, at this set or SE Linux prompt disabled at runtime. My installation will appear to hang. It will sit here for as long as 10 minutes. If this happens to you, just go make a sandwich. Have no fear. When you come back after about 10 minutes time, you should indeed be at your UCS emulator login CLI prompt. So what I'm going to do now is pause this video. We're going to wait for this installation process to finish. I won't do anything. There's no tricks up my sleeve here. You're seeing everything as I'm doing it. Have no fear. But I will pause the video because we don't want to sit during this portion of the installation and stare at this screen. So we'll be right back to continue. By the way, I clicked into this UCS platform emulator VM inside the VMware player, and that is where the attention of my machine, the inputs on my machine are focused. If I hit Control Alt on the keyboard, notice I get my cursor back and I can move outside of that virtual machine. So remember, you click in a virtual machine in order to direct your input there, and then it's Control Alt to break out of that virtual machine and get your inputs out of that particular VM. Okay, everybody, I'm going to pause the video now. I'll be right back in a split second to guide you through the rest of this exciting installation. Okay, so I went and made a sandwich. I came back. Whew, you can tell I'm out of breath. And here we are at the login screen. Great. So the installation process didn't hang there. It just takes quite a bit of time. By the way, if you're monitoring your CPU, for instance, you would see that your machine's still really working. Notice you can log in, and the available logins are config. Now, you don't have to do this, but we can log in, and we can go ahead and view and configure the network settings of the emulator, restart it, do a factory reset, shut it down, etc. What we're interested in, and let me do a Control Alt and grab my pen, what we're interested in is the GUI. Yeah, we want to get to the UCS graphical user interface. And notice that's going to be displayed here at 192.168.83.140. Let me grab a pen and write that down. Okay, great. I've got that written down. And now let me fire open one of those browsers that Cisco said we needed to use. I've got Firefox right here, and we'll type in 192.168.83.140. We'll hit enter, and fingers crossed, up in the tab I can see UCSPE control panel. That's a really great sign. So here we are in the platform emulator control panel. We've got a drawer here that deals with the UCS manager, emulator settings, a restart option. So we'll get into this control panel, I'm sure, in later courses, maybe even in this one. But right now, what we're excited about is launching the UCS Manager. So we're going to choose Launch UCS Manager. We're going to choose OK. Here's where Java kicks in. And remember, we needed a certain version of Java or higher. So let's make sure we have that in place. And we're going to trust this Cisco systems person, and we're going to log in with config, just like we did at the CLI. And look at this. Congratulations. You are the proud owner of a unified computing system complete with hardware. So let me resize this so you can see it all. Look at this. We've got a chassis in here. The chassis makes connections to our fabric interconnects. Inside that chassis are our blade servers right here. So this is an incredibly powerful practice platform for us, and you'll see me utilizing this, and you can follow along in the nuggets that follow this one. Well, I sure hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.